So hey friends, welcome to this week's video. The past couple of videos have been around the Fujifilm X100 VI and the related converter lenses. They've been really great because the wide one was really good for additional video real estate to compensate for that crop, and then the tight one was really good to give me that 50mm equivalent that I love shooting in. However, going through that interchangeability made me forget about how I have an A7 III that I haven't been shooting a lot of photography with lately. I've been mostly using it for video. So whether you see it on my streams, on my other channel, or I use it for webcams for work, it just hasn't been used for photography at all. So as a result, I just don't really use some of the more character or sharp lenses that are more manual focused that I normally would. I usually just pick, the fastest one with the autofocus that has flexibility. So some of my Sony lenses, but going through the Fujifilm converters made me miss the interchangeability of the A7 III that I have and some of the lenses that I've accumulated over the years. And one of those being the Apo Lanthar from Voigtlander, the 50mm, which you're seeing here right now. I love it just because it's super sharp. The colors are really dope. And even for Sabika, she's been using this on her creative videos, like showing different booklets and things like that. I just forgot how well the colors pop, how sharp everything is. So it just made me want to revisit this lens. I never really shot a review on it, so I figured to do a more deeper dive, take some photos around the city, and reacclimate myself, if you will. But if you'd like to join the journey, please stay tuned. I will be showing you up closes, and then we'll go into some photos. Standing up this 50mm lens, you see the 3 colored stripes and the Apo Lanthar text. In Voigtlander world, this isn't just marketing jargon, it's their ultimate badge of optical perfection. This means you'll still get the gold contacts, meaning that it can communicate with the body, giving you full EXIF data, enabling 5-axis in-body image stabilization, and instantly punching in your EVF focus assist in the moment you touch the ring. APO stands for apochromatic. Standard lenses focus 2 wavelengths of light on the sensor, often leaving a third out of sync. That's where you get the annoying purple and green fringing on high contrast image. An Apo design focuses red, green, and blue light waves to align perfectly on the exact same focal plane. With this, chromatic aberrations are virtually non-existent. Then there's the Lanthar designation, a historical nod to a rare earth Lanthar glass used to achieve this incredibly low dispersion. Looking inside, you'll find a highly engineered 12-blade aperture diaphragm. Voigtlander designed this specifically to form a perfectly circular opening, not just wide open, but specifically f2, f2.8, and f5.6 for flawless round, clean bokeh. Mechanically, this lens is an absolute masterpiece. Zero plastic here, it's an all-metal, helicoid construction with high precision lubrication. Focus ring has this dense cinematic resistance that makes the manual focusing feel completely deliberate, slow, and rewarding. For hybrid shooters, they've included a selective aperture control system. With a quick push and flip of the collar, you can instantly switch the aperture ring from a distinct tactical clicks for photography to a completely smooth and silent declicked rotation for seamless exposure pulls during video. And despite all this build, the craziest part is this thing only hits 371 grams. To put that in perspective, the popular Sony 20mm f1.8G lens, which relies heavily on a polycarbonate and plastic exterior, actually weighs more at 386 grams. The Voigtlander doesn't have autofocus, so it doesn't have all of those extra components that the Sony does. So as a result, Voigtlander has managed to deliver a dense, ultra-premium, all-metal instrument that remains incredibly lightweight and compact in your kit. It's a masterclass in modern lens density. Some of my friends did a 5K on one of the nicest days we've had in Massachusetts this year. Clear blue skies and the sun was shining hard. Real nice to bring out the colors and dynamics of the lens, especially with the greenery in the background. Looking at the faces, you can see how tack sharp things are edge to edge. Details are heavily present and colors pop out of the picture. Here with the band, you can see the vibrant colors of the shirts contrasted with the layered greens of the hills really nicely. And we get this all with no fringing from the bright sun. As for the bokeh, you see the smoothness of it. Not quite as dreamy as a 1.2 or 1.4 aperture, but nicely rendered to give you context to the background, but still keeping focus of the subject. In bright light, f2 is perfect for the bokeh, and it's very even and layered for different distances. Wide open, nature blends cleanly, while human subjects are de-emphasized and yet still discernible for more dynamics on the shot. Stopping down for product shots, everything is just very punchy with clean, fine lines. Shadows have a presence, reflections are clearly discernible, and things just come alive. There's just this 3D feel to the pictures that make you feel like you are there. Moving to a more overcast scene, we went to a Ghibli painting class in Cambridge right after the morning rain. Overcast is where you get more natural tones and where I like shooting the most because things aren't too overblown nor warm. I love how this lens picks up reflections on sunglasses and it just brings a nice dynamic to photos. Yet even without them, it does a wonderful job of picking the details of the skin and the hair and renders really flattering, depthy photos for people. Colors, like we said before, are the star of the lens. It's just so beautiful and bold. It makes things look better than reality at times. Like this bench did not look as aesthetic from my memory, but here it looks like a vivid beaut. I love the bokeh here too. Samika is the star of the shot, but you can still discern the expressions of Evie's and Baldine, which just add a lot of character with the shot without having to focus on all levels. I was able to get some golden hour shots with my boy Mark, who was getting inducted for the Hall of Fame of Athletics for his college. I love that the tones came out detailed, but not too razor sharp. It showed I could still get a softer render with this lens while still having that in-person presentation. Since this picture was going to be redrawn in charcoal, we did transition some of these pictures to black and white, just in case this was easier for the artist. Black and white does help draw emphasis to his beard and hair, showing the details that can be brought out in post. I also noticed that the lens does a good job of bringing light into the eyes, even in shadowy areas. It just helps bring life to the eyes. Just like the other shots, the bokeh is cleaner and smoother rather than dreamy and full of character. You won't get that watercolor bokeh, but you'll get beautiful blur with minimal fringing. In lower light settings, you can see more of how the bokeh behaves. You get those nice round bokeh balls and reliable blurring. However, in these conditions, you'll also notice that there's vignetting when shot wide open. This is due to the compact nature of the lens. It has a long barrel with a narrow lens. You'll notice this more at f2 and f2.8, but will mostly be cleared up by f4. It's not so dramatic where things will feel claustrophobic, but it can give you intimate shots out of the camera if that is the intention. I was concerned how this would shoot at night without the f1.2. However, I've been enjoying shooting this at night and getting sharp pictures. I will say with night shots, I do find it personally that I need to use the EVF and didn't notice I was locked onto the wrong subject until I was editing. I totally missed the focus on Samika on these two. The next few shots I used the EVF and you can see I was able to lock focus much easier. I'm not sure if this is an everyone thing or just me, but without autofocus, I was absolutely in need of the EVF to focus properly into the subject. Again, here you can see I'm slightly out of focus for this picture. I wasn't able to really bring Samika into focus fully. But when using the EVF on these flowers, I was able to get something much more sharp. Tell me in the comments if this is something you struggle with too, or if it's just me struggling with my night blindness. For now, EVF is my friend at night, but it might be a limiting factor if I'm ever trying to get a shot from a low or high angle where I can't bring my face to the camera. For recommendations, obviously I'm going to recommend it because it's a lens that I love. But it is a pretty penny, so it will depend if you want to drop this much money on a manual lens. It is $1,050 or $1,050 retail, but you can get it like $850 with B&H right now, so you can get a little bit of a deal if you want a brand new one. However, you can also get this lens for like resale or for used if you want to go with like a Japanese option. And then you can get like $550, $650 for this lens, which I think is a great deal. It's a lot less than I paid for it. And from my experience, if you pick a really good like rated Japan seller, they take tremendously good care of their gear. So like even for Samika, she got me the Nocton 35mm 1.2, and they said that it had like wear and scuffs, but we couldn't find it. So we got a cheaper lens for basically a new lens. So I would totally recommend that if you can find it. So don't necessarily shy away from a resale because you can get really nice glass from that, especially from Japan. However, I will say that it may not be for everyone, especially if you're not good at locking focus or you don't have the best vision to make sure that that focus is proper. It does take a little bit of getting used to for the manual, but the throw for it isn't too bad. Like I can find it pretty easily. I'm not turning tremendously, but you know, because it's smooth and fluid, it may not be the fastest like manual zoomer that there is, but it's very luxury feeling. And if you want to slow down a little bit, be more intentional with your shots, then this is perfect. For me, I like it because it forces me to slow down. It forces me to make sure things are sharp. It forces me to take less shots and just be more intentional, frame things right, and be more thoughtful as I'm going through that process. It doesn't mean like I don't just take a bunch of shots knowing that it'll be sharp, or take a bunch of shots because I don't know if it'll be there. It's really like I have to anticipate if the shot will be there. I think about it a lot more, which I like. From a creative process, it makes me think about things a lot cleaner, a lot more creatively, rather than having just like the convenience of an autofocus that behaves really quickly and I can just, you know, take a plethora of shots and pick later. Editing, post-processing, it's just all easier with this lens because I took the forethought up front rather than having to like rely on quantity to get the shot that I want. But again, if it's right for you in terms of your practices, right for you in terms of price, then definitely pick it up. You'll love the colors, you'll love everything. I'll also link Samika's video out here because she did a whole like recording of it, so you can just see how colors pop, how sharp it is, more in depth from a video perspective, if you guys want to use it for that as well. But yeah, that's basically all I have to say about the lens. Love it. If you have any questions, definitely put it in the comments. It's somewhere that, you know, I get ideas for shorts, things that you guys want to see in the future, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, in the meantime, if you could, please like, comment, subscribe, do all the things you'd normally do on a video that you like and love. And as always, I appreciate you. See you very soon.